Hello, I'm Phyllis King, the Common Sense Psychic, and welcome to my predictions for the year 2022. First things first, I want to give you a big sigh of relief and let you know that on balance, if you compare 2021 to 2022, most everyone is going to feel better all in all in 2022. It's just a better, the energy itself is easier to digest. It doesn't mean we don't have hardships. It doesn't mean we don't have moments of conflict or strife or troubles. That's life. But overall, the energy is just much smoother. It's easier to get through, and we move from one thing to the next. So I really like the texture and the feel of 2022. It's very much a progress year. And let me say more about that. All years do take a theme. So last year was so much about struggle and partnership and connection and relationship. It's like, how can we be together? How can we make connections? How can we make deals? How can we come together to feel that sense of collaboration? Now, of course, we have this in some form all the time, but last year it was the dominant energy. This year, I'll say it's the opposite, which isn't the exactly correct word, but it's really the year of the individual becoming immersed in their authentic, true self, their true wisdom. So it's the year of entrepreneurship. It's the year of individual needs getting met. It's the year of pioneering. I'm reading some of my notes. It's the year of the inventor. It's the year of people breaking ground. It's really quite exciting energy, and it's movement energy. And all in all, movement energy just feels better to everyone because we're on to the next thing. We feel that flow of energy. So let's say, like in the US and global economies, of course, we're playing with fire of sorts with debt and crypto and NFTs and the like, but it seems the wins financially continue to go to those who risk more than the losses of those who choose to not go in it, or those who are risking. It just seems like we continue to have things go in our favor. If there is going to be a tough financial month or months, it will be April, and then again in the end of September. So there are pockets of time throughout the year where economies and our individual finances can take a nosedive, and it feels like those are the most precarious month. And again, I want to sort of describe this energy of authentic and listening to our own truth, because there's also an agitation, but it's not an uncomfortable agitation. It's more that makes us productive, which causes a lot of results. So there's an agitation to move, whether that's to get in shape, whether that's to build your business, whether that's to change jobs, whether that's to get a relationship. It really doesn't matter, but it's a productive year. And it is the feature of 2022. So I'm going to go month by month and describe what the energies are for that, but I want to go over some specific predictions in various areas. So I want to start with technology, where we continue to see smarter and smarter technology requiring less and less human brain power to navigate not only the technology, but in our lives. We're going to see advancement in chip technology. Get this, I mean, we've been fearing this and writing about it in sci-fi movies forever, but fit for human implantation. And so those experiments are going to become more public and dominant, and they will be centered more around health than around control, if you will. So it's a slippery slope, obviously, but we're gonna hear a lot about that in 2022. And we'll first hear about it through robotic technology and these technologies and these creatures who are so human-like. I mean, so we're really feeling the sci-fi part of life become part of our life, you know, and I think we've been seeing it infiltrate in some form, but it really starts to show up in a much more pronounced way. And of course, there's always two sides to that coin. On the technology front, of course, more and more electric cars as we move away from fossil fuels. It's just what we're doing. It's a necessity, and it's the market's demanding it. So that's what's driving it more than anything. More self-driven, more voice command, more interactive electronics through communication and other electronic devices. And it keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller, which is part of why we need this really effective voice technology, because I don't know about you, but my fingers can't can't press those little teeny buttons, right? All right. So, and all of this, by the way, is a precursor to different regulations in the tech industry. It's been the wild, wild west for a very long time, but these impacts are becoming so great on society at large that we have to begin to think, how can we regulate for our own benefits? Because it's almost like the effects that addictions have on people. And, sometimes we can't control ourselves, and, nobody wants to be regulated by the government, but, some of these things can become dangerous in some ways. So, there's this technology approach to how do we measure it? How do we help people understand what really is a good amount of technology and how to use it? So I think we're going to start to see classes pop up on university campuses around ethics and around how to use technology and how to create technology through ethical means and measures. And that's a whole new area of expertise. And I think we're going to see not only university campuses, but various firms are going to now begin to talk about the ethics of how we use technology and how it infiltrates our lives. Okay, we're going to see in the global picture of technology, the superpowers, of course, around the world are in a race to be the latest and the greatest and the best and move everything fast, fast, fast forward. And so we're going to see these adversarial relationships become more adversarial, especially between, the United States and China, for instance. Unfortunately, we see this real contentious fight for everyone to get top notch and get that spot in the world that we're on the top. So we're going to really feel a lot of those tensions, and we'll feel that in our politics as we really try and divide ourselves from other parts of the world. So technology will continue. I mean, it's we love it, we hate it. And there's so much money in technology that it's just going to be on the top of the news throughout the whole year. And we're just going to see amazing inventions coming forward. All right, let's switch gears and go into the weather pattern. Not much new there. It's just continuing to be, we're going to be drenched in many parts of the country, and we're going to be parched in other parts of the country and world. And by the way, depending on where you're listening to, I'm referring to the United States as that's where I live, but I will touch on other parts of the world as well. The Philippines is coming up hot, hot, hot. Flood central. Japan again, earthquakes and water, and all the way over to Guam, Tokyo to Guam. So just that whole region just feels, just feeling a lot of activity over there from the summer through the summer months all the way through the fall months. And then in the southern United States, just a lot of activity, flooding, and just it's just water everywhere. And of course, in California, they always have earthquakes on the West Coast, but I'm just feeling larger earthquakes. But fortunately, I'm not feeling loss of life devastation in that area. In South America, however, I am feeling earthquake activity, and it feels more like Colombia and in that region of South America, but mostly the infrastructure is not great. And so when the earthquakes occur, the devastation is more painful to endure in terms of loss of human life and that. And I'm expecting somewhere around the month of May for us to see something on the earthquake front in South America. Extreme drought in areas of the Middle East, Dubai and that area, all around in that part of the world where I'm feeling, I'm just feeling parched. I'm just feeling, as I sit here and talk to you about it, I want to get my water, like I'm thirsty. So, and some of this is climate and some of it is cyclical and the weather patterns. And the people can dispute whatever that is. And water just continues to be a topic of conversation. There's too much or there's too little. And there's not enough clean use and drinking water in various parts of the world that continue to be an issue. So that's the overview on the weather. Nothing new other than it's excessive. So for instance, I live in the Pacific Northwest at this time, and we have hotter temperatures than normal. Then we have colder than normal. So everything is not typical. And that's going to continue and be exacerbated. All right, let's switch gears over and talk about Hollywood for a minute. I think when it comes to the Oscars and presence in general, I'm feeling a lot of Will Smith. I mean, I think we've seen a lot of him already, but he seems to be coming forward in a different way. I'm feeling like he wants to make a statement. I almost feel like he wants a level of credibility in terms of his person and his wisdom, and as an influencer more than ever before. I see him coming into like this teacher role much more definitively, like a motivational type of speaker. But really, I saw something recently of him doing some foray out around the world, but it's beyond that he really he wants to leave a legacy beyond his movies. He may very well get an Oscar for whatever his movies is. I haven't seen any of the movies, by the way, of the people I'm going to talk about. But it seems like his energy is even bigger than the Oscar this year. So it wouldn't surprise me for him to get the Oscar. And if it's not him, there's Denzel Washington also feels strong, but there's some bias energy towards him that might conflict. And then there's the Cumberbatch guy. I can't remember his first name at this moment. My apologies to him. But he also feels his energy is really forward. But to me, Will Smith feels the strongest. Now, on the actress front, Lady Gaga, she keeps coming forward. It's very present. And it's something that it feels unexpected in a way. And she keeps sneaking up on us with how talented she appears to be. Again, I haven't seen any of her movies, but I'm just feeling the energy of her presence, which continues to be remarkable in certain ways. So I wouldn't be surprised to see her come away with an Oscar. But who's also coming up, sort of like a dark horse, is that gal who played in the Twilight movies. I hope that's a gal. Do you call women gals these days? Oh my gosh. Okay, anyhow, Kristen Stewart, that woman from the Twilight series, she's coming up, and it's like, I almost see like the horse coming up from behind. That's the image that comes to mind. Like she might actually be the person who gets the Oscar. Who would have thought? I haven't heard about her in years, but she's coming forward. And again, I haven't seen her movies. Hollywood continues to perplex us and confound us in various ways because they have their own standards of measurements, and sometimes it's disconnected from the actual public sentiment, which is fine, I suppose. But I'm expecting, because of that disconnect with what the appetite is for the public, we see a lot more Marvel movies or those superhero movies. A lot of that still comes forward. A lot of love movies, a lot of true stories based upon true stories. That kind of thing is coming forward. And that's great. We're all looking to be uplifted, and I think they're going to answer that. Okay, let's jump into medical and health and wellness. Okay, so I think we all can predict this. You don't have to be psychic to predict this, but an increase in telemedicine and video medicine. And COVID produced virtual meetings in general and really highlighted the need for this interaction when we couldn't move, we couldn't get anywhere, right? But that trend is here to stay and improve. And so the good news, bad news about that is that providers are really going to be flooding people with educational information. And so in some ways, people are going to pay more attention to their health than they have before and become a little bit more educated about what they need to do. So there's some good positive things that are coming through that. Again, we continue to see enormous breakthroughs in cancer treatments, and we're going to continue to see that happen. It's just, it's like the progress is improving exponentially. Not that we don't have to be concerned about these treatments, but or these conditions, but I'm just watching rapid advancement. And some of it, believe it or not, has come through some other forms of treatments that have been developed, whether it be through COVID or anti-aging or any of these. The trials sometimes produce outcomes that aren't anticipated. So pretty fascinating stuff. And so when we see the cancer breakthroughs coming through, especially in the month of August of 2022, we might find it from an unlikely source or unlikely sources than what we'd ordinarily see. We continue to see enormous progress in cosmetic and anti-aging processes, and we're going to see costs begin to come down actually quite significantly, not towards the end of 2022, because we're finding a lot more trained people. It's been such a lucrative field, but the market's going to become a little saturated and competitive. So I think that's the good news, bad news, that more people can actually afford these processes, these treatments and procedures if they want to have them. And we're not going to talk about the other side about should you or shouldn't you. That's a personal choice. We're going to continue to see supply chain issues for the first half of 2022, but COVID is going to be pretty much recede by June of 2022. It's not that it's going away, it's that we're learning how to deal with it. And it's just becoming, okay, do you have the flu? Do you have COVID? Do you have, hepatitis? It's just one more thing that we deal with we've normalized. We're no longer hypersensitive to it. And so at that point, common sense really starts to prevail in many situations that have lacked. And in part, in fairness, when something new comes on, we tend to be more reactive than not because we don't know what it's going to do. But I think all that craziness that we've experienced with COVID is really going to subside by June 2022. And the good news about that is for some of it has been assigned politically to political parties. It really helps calm some of that, drawing the line in the sand about mask or no mask. However, masks are here to stay in some form. They just are. It's just, and I think it's a side effect of a populous planet. When you're crammed into a small space with a lot of people, you're going to be breathing each other's airspace. And I think if nothing else, people have been more cognizant of their closeness to each other and what we touch and the germs we transmit to one another, knowingly and unknowingly. So that's here to stay. Let's see. Also on the world stage, I neglected to mention, we're seeing a lot of power push between Russia, Ukraine, and the United States. It's like that whole incident that happened during the former president's administration with Ukraine. It's really ramping up, and it's almost like, excuse my vernacular, a pissing contest of a sort between presidents. And I think that's really going to wrap up and get to a fever pitch. But at the end of the day, I don't feel a war breaking out in the way one might expect. And I do feel Russia will ultimately back down. But it gets a little scary because these are, nuclear weapon, holding countries, ourselves and Russia. So it's not something we like to think about. Okay, so before I make my closing statement, I want to go over the energies for the months. And I do monthly forecasts anyhow. So, and I do that so you don't have to listen to the whole 2022 predictions. I'm looking for my notes right away. Oh, here we go. And I have to put my glasses on so I can read my chicken scratch. Okay, so as we get into January, the energy here is bumpy. So we're ready for January and we're kind of done with 2021, but it's kind of like, we're getting going, but we aren't getting going. We're getting going, but we aren't getting going. So it's It's not the smoothest start to a new year, but we are into it. And I would say by the second to third week of January, we're kind of moving forward. All right, we're kind of, okay, now we're into the new energy. Now we're feeling like we can do things we're trying to do. So for those who start new programs, whether it's working out, whether it's eating, whether it's looking for a new job, whatever it is, it's going to feel a little discombobulated the first few weeks of the year. As we get into February, which is typically a month a lot of people think about love because of Valentine's Day, it's much more focused on business and work and creating projects and investing, things like that. There is some love energy in there, but it's more about people really competing and trying to get something going, and a lot of that competition energy getting in there. So it's kind of like what I would think we would ordinarily experience in January. Let's get going. That really has the let's go. And the other part about this is, let's say you started on a new venture or a new health plan at the 1st of January. If it fell down in the second or third week of January, you're going to pick it back up. And by the way, this is a feature of 2022, that the whole year has urgency to it. The whole energy pattern, all the way until November, late October, November, we're going to be in a mood to get things going and to start things. So if you fall off the wagon, so to speak, you're going to get right back on. This is different than most years. Okay. Then as we get into March, this is the love month. This is a month where spring has sprung, the flowers are starting to bloom, we're in the mood. A lot of us are just in the mood. I really like March for all things love related, for all things family and closeness and partnership. So you can think about that as you're trying to, work with the energies to get the best results. Really a great month to get your procedures done. If you are doing cosmetic procedures, it's just a sweet month in general. I like it. The energy is just really delicious. And then as we head into April, this is a determined energy, high energy, consistent, productive. So anything you've been building on, I mean, you're going to the finish line in this month. You are on your mark, get set, we're going places in April, literally or figuratively. Very determined energy in April. And then as we get into May, calm waters. It's kind of like the first time all year we sort of exhale. We've kind of been in go mode in one way or another. We've kind of been working our energy, and all of a sudden in May, we just kind of go, you know what? I think I'm just going to relax. Maybe we'll even take a trip. Maybe we'll plan something in that time. But this is the time where we're sort of out of that agitation energy, that urgency energy temporarily. Okay. And then as we hit June, again, this is what I'm calling the fall apart energy. So if anything is going to go wrong in your life, or any deal is going to fall apart that isn't supposed to be in your life, any relationship that's going to fall apart, it's really going to show signs of stress and fatigue in this month, or literally fall apart. The energy just is not cohesive this month. It's kind of a free-for-all, and nothing wants to connect in June. So for you guys, it would be like, don't try and make too much happen in the month of June. I would just let May, that exhale energy, kind of take you through June. So probably a good time to take that vacation you planned in May. July, I would say July, and the way the energy feels to me, is really the best energy month of the year. It has elements of surprise. It just feels invigorating. It feels exciting and fun. It just has a little bit of everything, and everything comes together, the opposite of June. So it's just, you throw anything at the wall, it's going to stick. And then it just has some surprise energy to it. So if you're working your vision boards and your manifestation affirmations, all that stuff, this is a month you're likely to get something really lovely from the universe dropped into your lap. Okay, let me get here we go, August. So back to August, we're in a very much of a work mode, but it's a slowdown of the sorts. But we're focused again on making things happen in the workplace. And it's more of a, I don't want to say fatigue, but we're kind of more going through the motions and the energy is not as vibrant. So like maybe July wore us out. I don't know. I'm just interpreting here, but I think August is not as thrilling of a month if you want to use that language. September is a real slowdown in energy. We just can't seem to be productive. And sometimes, you know, just like in all cycles, there's a high and there's a low. I would say September is the low month of the year, where we really feel, you know, if we've had some losses throughout the year, whether it's a relationship, job, what have you, I think it'll catch up to us then. Or like, okay, I've done a lot, I've worked a lot has gone on, and now I'm just kind of really integrating it at this point, and it's a lot. October represents opportunities again, openings, another chance to break new ground. I mean, again, we're going to feel that agitation I described at the beginning, where it's like, okay, there's a few months left in the year. I really want to get things happening, and we'll get a boost, a real jolt to get out there and further whatever we're working on or start something new at that point. November, again, mirrors a little bit of June, where we have that kind of fall apart energy. So, you know, it's just, it's not a negative, but it doesn't have that agitation that we've been relying on, that urgency that spurred us forward all year. So another perfect for the holidays, because you can't do a lot anyhow. Things start to slow down naturally. December, thank goodness, we get to end with a similar energy to May, where it's calm, where we're peaceful. And we have energy when we need it, but it's just very serene and calm. And when we reflect on the year, and unlike 2021, for a lot of people, we're like, dang, that was a shit show. We're more like, you know, that was a good year. That was really productive. I feel fantastic about that. So, you know, there you have it for the monthly overview of the year. And now my final comments about 2022. You know, nothing happens in a vacuum. I know it's easy in our own little bubbles, in our own little worlds, to think it's just us. You know, we're out here doing our jobs or having our lives, and that's all that's going on. But everything is connected. And so when we reflect on recent history, 2020, we really took a turn definitively as humanity. And we've been inching our way here for 30 or 40 years. But with the onset of COVID and various political strife and changes we're seeing around the globe, people have been going in directions very different from one another. And in 2022, what's significant to me is there is a real energetic push for us to come to our own individual truth and to acknowledge that in some way. Hence, we see entrepreneurship like never before. We see inventions like never before, cutting edge technologies from, and not just people who are already doing it, but people who would never thought they would ever invent anything, inventing things. People becoming entrepreneurs who have been in 9-to-5 jobs for double decades. It's that kind of energy where people are really coming out of themselves and trying to listen and acknowledge their inner voice. You know, in the same token, we have this disparity between what fact and fiction is, what truth and falseness is. I mean, it's startling that a lot of people don't know. And part of that comes from being disconnected with self. But what's been happening on the planet, from my point of view, is a deconstruction, that we are moving into an age of humanitarianism, which is going to take 3 to 4 generations minimally to begin to achieve and realize the benefits of that type of culture. And as with any of us or anyone watching, if in your own life, when you have had a divorce or a financial setback, or you've suffered a loss or a health concern, you know how devastating and traumatic that can be. However, when you stay awake and you learn from your experience and you grow from your experience and you allow it to awaken yourself, then as you move on to the next steps in life, it tends to be much richer, more rewarding, more fulfilling, and you feel like your contributions have more value. And that's, in my point of view, where we're going on this planet. It's a bumpy road. There's a lot that's wrong that's going on in the world. When I say wrong, I mean hard in the world, but I really trust the evolutionary process of humanity. And I encourage anyone I speak to also put their trust in the evolutionary process, because quantum physics has proved to us over the decades that what we perceive to be true influences tangible matter. And there's so much more that we can't even begin to comprehend as human beings. But just know that we aren't in a vacuum, that there are cycles and rhythms to life and a process that we're in, and to trust the process. And as we come into 2022, which is such a superior year energetically to 2021, really take advantage of this lovely energy and these patterns that are in, to lean into your own truth, your own wisdom. And you can influence the planet. At the very least, you influence a person who may touch someone else and then again someone else. So I trust that we'll all be okay, and that we are going to get through these trying times that we all recognize. And if we can be kind to each other and at the least be neutral to each other, I think that's a big step in the right direction. So thank you, each and every one of you, for your support. Those of you I know this past year, I always am so grateful to have your ear and to have your support. And to those of you that are new to me or that I don't know as well, I look forward to getting to knowing you better. All right, Happy New Year, my friends. Until next time.